Are you looking for a better way to track the number of hours you have on those really large jobs? Well, that is the topic of this week's Planning for Profit Minute. Now, as we start digging into the individual jobs they have, remember, if it's a small job, 2 days, 3 days, you can keep track in your mind, are we getting that thing done in the number of hours that we had in the proposal? But when the job is 200 hours, 300 hours, it's spanning several months, suddenly that becomes a lot more difficult. And really, when we look at it, that's the function of the job tracking report that we have built into the software tool. Because again, today it might be Joe and Jeff who are out on the job, and tomorrow it's Jeff and John who are out there, and the next day it's Isaac and Jim, and the people who are out there keep changing, and it makes it really difficult to keep track of those mentally, especially when it's different people or over a large span of time. And so what we're going to do to track this is simply go into the jobs section of the tool itself. And in here, we've got the job hours tracking report. Now, I'm going to give you 2 different ways to actually enter jobs or create jobs inside of this tool and update them. So first, we're going to start from scratch. We don't have a job in there. We haven't dealt with it prior to this. And so all we need to do is in the upper right-hand corner, right, we're simply going to go click on Add a New Job. So as we click on that Add a New Job, the job entry screen pops up. And so all we're going to do now is we're simply going to walk through this particular screen and fill in the data. All right, so this will be the PFP minute. Sample. All right, we'll put that in. We just hit your tab key, right? So first off, what department is doing this job? Well, this is a job for my replacement department. Right. And what type of work is it? Residential or commercial? Because as we start looking at your data, there's a big difference between a commercial job and a residential job. So we want to kind of break those out separately. This is going to be it's a large residential. And then I'm going to dictate, okay, who is the lead tech? Who's running this job, if you will? And so in this case, I'm going to say it's John Smith is the one who's running the job. Just simply put their name in there. Next, what's the job start date? When is this job actually starting? So I'm going to say we started this job back on the 1st of the month. Once we've got that in, now we go down to the bottom and you're going to enter in how many hours were in that original bid or that estimate that you had. Well, this job has 300 hours in it. Again, total man hours. Do we have any change orders? If at any point in the process you have additional change orders, you'll want to come back in and edit that. At this point, we don't have any. Then we go down, and each week, what I'm going to do is on a weekly basis, I'm simply going to go back to the lead text. So in this case, I'm going to go back to John Smith, and I'm going to go, hey, John, roughly give me your best estimate. How far along are you on that job? What percentage are you complete? And John might come back and say, well, we're about 20% done. Okay, got it. Now, here's the thing. At the beginning of the job, when he's saying 5, 10, 15%, he's just kind of guessing, right? He's putting his best number on it. But as the job gets closer and closer to completion, his percentages get more and more accurate. And all of your numbers get more and more accurate along the way with that. And so, again, don't worry about it being off a little bit. And so we come up with it, so it's 20% complete. Then, again, on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on how you do payroll, just simply go back and look at your actual data and how many hours has the team put in on this particular job so far, right? So again, the cumulative total of all of my guys that are billable for this job, how many hours have they applied to the job already so far? And so as I look at this, we might say that they've used 72 hours, right? Now, what this is showing us, right, as I move over to the other side of this screen, I can see total estimate hours. There were 300 hours in the job. Estimated hours used. In other words, if we were indeed 20% complete, we would have used 60 hours. That means we're already on track to finish this job 12 hours behind schedule. And we have a grand total of 228 hours left to finish the job. So at this point, we're actually over our estimate in terms of hours itself. Now, as we look at that and monitor that piece of the puzzle, I can come back in now and just simply accept this job. right? So as I accept it, it's going to add it to my list. Now, when I look at my list itself, I'm going to come down to my service department. So this first one is all installation, then I have service, and I'm sorry, this was a replacement job. And so as I scroll down, I can find that particular job, the PFP minute sample. It's in progress. I can see who the lead is on it. I can see how many hours we've used to date and what percentage of the job that we've said that we're completed on. And then the next item that I want to look at is, as I come over a little bit farther, I can see here really the critical ones are going to be how many hours ahead or behind are we on this particular project. Now, I can print out this report, and I can simply come down to the bottom of this screen and print this report off. As I print it off, I can now review this with my team on a regular basis. I recommend you do that at least every other week. Better to do it every week. Right now, when your team is looking at this, and again, you can just display it up on the board in front of the room. If you actually print out a copy of it, then what I recommend is that when we're done with the meeting, you collect those physical copies. I don't need somebody out there finding out how I did this job. As your team looks at it, they're going to come back and they're going to focus on three numbers. They're going to focus on, and again, once they've seen this for a while, they know what they're looking at, right? And so they're going to look at what percentage did John say we are? How many hours have we used? And then are we ahead or behind? They're going to look at those three columns. And at that point, they're going to have one of three questions. When they see that we're over, they're going to go, okay, I don't know who bid this job. I don't know what they were smoking when they bid it, but they totally missed it on the bid. Right? That'll be one. And that could be the case, right? We need to go back and refine our bids. The second thing would be, yeah, but if we look at this job, right, we didn't know we were going to have to get into a number of these items that were out there, that were in there. And so, you just didn't fill us in properly. Now, that's a communication issue now inside the office. We need to fix that one. Or they might look at it and go, yeah, we are kind of dogging it on this job. We just got to pick up the pace. Right? It's going to be one of those three answers that they come up with. But by doing this, we can see all the way along the job that, hey, where are we? Now, in some cases, you'll review it with your team, and they'll be going, who says we're 20% along? We're farther along than that. Now, again, if that's the case, and we as a team agree that we're farther along than that on this job, then I'm completely comfortable going into that particular job. Right now, simply scroll over to the right for that job, and I'm simply going to hit the three action dots on there, and we're going to edit that job. All right, and if we agree as a team, we're actually closer to 30% done, I'm good with that. And again, if they fudge the numbers now, it's only going to come back to haunt them later on the job. But now at this point, I can see if we're actually 30%, well, then we would have used 90 hours on the job. We've only used 72. We're actually 18 hours ahead. And so as a team, we can always see where we are in the job and how efficient we're working. Now, I've got a lot of company owners that say, hey, really in this bid, we bid the job at 320 hours. For purposes of this report, I'm going to put 300. Therefore, even if they complete it at 100%, well, then I'm still okay. We're still ahead. Or if they miss it by a little bit, we're still okay as a company. So that's the first method. And again, I can come back in and accept this and simply update this information on a regular basis. Now, I'm going to jump out of this one. The second way that we can get to these jobs is if you used the job pricing calculator and you save the job in the job pricing calculator, those are all on your list as well. And so, for example, we had on a previous video, we did a job for the installation department called the PFP minute example. Right? And so I can simply see that job on this list. All I need to do is simply come back over to the right, hit the three action dots, and what you'll see here is when I edit this job, there's going to be a couple of different items. Number one, the job name is coming through. But some of this other stuff, I don't have that information yet the first time I'm in here, so I need to fill it in. So what department it is? Well, it's the installation. We knew that from the proposal. All right, we've got the job name, the job department. What type of work is it? It's going to default to residential. You can pick whichever one it is. Who's the lead tech? We haven't entered that in yet, right? So this one is going to be Jimmy's running this job, right? When did we start it? It didn't know that. We started this one on the 15th. And then from that point, it's got the actual quote hours already in there, and we can fill in the balance of the data from there. So we don't have any change orders. We're now at this point, we're 50% complete on this job, and actual hours used, we've used 22, right? So at that point, we're in good shape, right? So we're 10 hours, in this case, we're at 50, right? If we're, 50% of 32 hours, right? We're off a little bit on that one. I can now accept this data. It's going to update that information and add it to our list. Now, with each one of these, it's giving us the data, the individual jobs that we have. And at the very bottom, you notice it gives us a grand total for all jobs. Well, one of the nice things I can do is, if you notice up here at the top, we have all these elements there that are populated by the individual jobs, the data that we have entered in. Well, I'm going, look, I don't need to see all these past jobs, so I'm going to turn all those off, right? And I want to see only the jobs from 2024. Look what happened to my list, right? It shrunk right down. And so now I can see those individual jobs. And then I can even go by department. I can say, okay, let's turn off the service department, and we're going to turn off the installation department. Right now, it's only showing me the data for the replacement department. And the reason why that can be helpful, why we put that in there, is because at that point, I can now look at and deal with just the installers and deal with their jobs, or just the replacement team and their jobs. Because I don't want any one of them going, well, yeah, we're behind, but they suck worse than we do. Right? And so, again, look at your department. How do you make your department profitable as you go through that? So use this tool for those larger jobs. That's a little bit tougher to track the number of hours that have actually been used, and make sure as you go along the job that you're staying profitable. You're not using more hours than you thought you were going to. And that is this week's Planning for Profit Minute.